the Volunteer Firefighter Podcast. My name is Ash, and I'm joined with two members of my firefighting family. We have Todd.
Hello.
And we don't have Scott, but guess who we have? We have Rob.
Hello there.
Hello. Scott's away at some training down in Vancouver area, and Rob stepped in, and he's got some stuff to chat about, which we were going to talk about last week. Rob was actually on an ice rescue course that we were going to dive into a bit last week, but we got running a little bit late, and then we had a call, which cut our podcast short. Mm-hmm. So, tonight, though, we are going to start off with a little bit of news. It's actually quite a bit of news. In Ohio Village, in Palestine, on Friday, there was a train derailment. Mm-hmm. Pretty big event. Who wants to chat about that?
Yeah, so just looking at I saw a couple clips on the news and stuff about it, and just looking at the articles. So it sounds like the crew on the train had some sort of a warning, so they applied the brakes to the train, and then the derailment occurred. And there's about 10 cars that went off with highly hazardous materials on it as well. And then there's many other cars that went off the rails as well. Big fire, of course. And then with those toxic fumes, it was carrying, what was that? That was
vinyl chloride?
Vinyl chloride, yeah. So very toxic. It was on fire. So they ended up putting like a 1 to 2 mile evacuation zone in place, and evacuated, from what I understand, about 5,000 people in the community. Mm-hmm. So pretty drastic. And that occurred Friday, so a few days ago.
Yeah. And
then it sounded like kind of Saturday and Sunday, a lot more information came about with the toxicity. So they were really worried about the toxic smoke and getting into the water systems and everything else. Mm-hmm. So they kept that isolation zone in place. And at this point in time, they still have no real idea when people are going to be allowed back.
Right. So vinyl chloride, we're not super familiar with it around here, but it sounds like it was used at some point as a refrigerant and can be used, I guess that's one of the parts to make PVC piping.
Yeah, so it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting, I was just reading, they're talking about nearly 2,000 residents.
Right.
And so a mass evacuation for something like that, it makes me think of our recent course we took in ICS.
Absolutely.
That's totally where that type of command structure would come available for evacuation of that.
Yeah, something of that magnitude there would be, pretty big impact to you. I mean, when you're 1 to 2 mile evacuation zone, that's pretty large. And all the people that would be displaced, businesses. Obviously there's this train on a track that is now derailed on fire. I mean, that's going to be a lot of interruption in freight, and if they're using that as a freight line, if they're using that as a passenger rail line as well. Mm-hmm. Tons and tons of interruptions to life. Pretty big event. I don't know what the overall injury rating on something like that was, what the deal was, but a lot of people are displaced. And as of right now, it sounds like they still, like Todd says, don't really have anything in place of like when that's going to relax.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what, when you start talking evacuation orders of a mass scale like that, back when I was with the CBRN team, we did a lot of tabletops with we'd pick one of the large malls, for example, in the Lower Mainland. Mm-hmm. And so we'd be doing this scenario-based training with, here's a terrorist attack, there's a dissemination device put into the ventilation system, and all these people are affected, and they talked about the seclusion zones, and then of how many people you're going to be dealing with there, but then also your secondary zone is going to be essentially the hospital, because there's going to be a lot of people that have self-rescued, who have symptoms, and now are going to the hospital and are showing up, and there is so many moving parts to it as a ICS structure. Right, it's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So
I liked. I guess we'll talk about it later too in our ICS course. But I like our mind of thinking from the fire side is that when we were doing our course and we're doing our command structure setup about operations and logistics and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah,
we're already planning in our in our setup, our scene and everything like that. Oh, we're going to need triage here, and oh, we're going to need helicopters landing there. You know, even though that's not really what the planning for that course really is. It's about the command structure, who's in charge, who's delegating what to who and how. But I mean, our thinking is, oh, we're going to need to set this up. We're going to need to set that up.
Right.
This is going to have to go there.
It's hard to step back a little bit. Like we all run under the ICS structure. However, generally our ICS structure is a small, closed scene, right?
Yeah, very small.
So our span of control is spread out and things like that. And obviously the ICS structure is built for large scale, and your span of control system is still in place for who you control and whatnot. However, I've always struggled with large tabletop exercises because I'm always thinking of, okay, if I'm IC on scene or if I'm tasked with this for a small scene, this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Not the big picture of, okay, no, now you're just sitting in an office and it's okay, yeah, this is logistics, this is operations, and the global picture, I guess, if you will, as far as, okay, now who's making the call to pay for 10 buses to move people, and who's making the call to shut down that hospital and move everybody to another hospital, and like there's so much more to it. Yeah. So the people that work in these large scale EOCs and whatnot are worth their weight in gold, because I would not want to do it. I would rather say the boots on the ground IC commander, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not something, and again, we can dive into more of that in a little bit here, but it's definitely not in our wheelhouse for our everyday. Like, we started to think back of how many events that we had in our area, say in the past 5 to 10, 15 years, that these larger scale, EOC kind of structures get set up. How, like, most of our events are like a type 5, maybe a type 4. We might get into like an overnight event. You know, we start thinking about our forest fires here locally, right? But even at that point, like, our command is handed off to BC Wildfire at that point. And are we running a unified command, or are we running completely separate because we're still operating under our authority having jurisdiction in town and we're doing our own thing, which when it comes to BC Wildfire locally, that's probably the best because it gives us the most, I don't want to say freedom, but it gives us the most freedom to do structure protection, and where they're looking large picture and they want to try to protect the entire mountainside, where we're trying to protect our local assets as well. Yeah. Anyway, we can dive into that later. We have another bit of news to chat about. There was a 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Turkey. Sounds like that was today.
Monday morning.
Yeah, so Monday morning.
Or Sunday.
Which would, I guess our Sunday. Pretty large event. 4,000 people right now, from the last thing that we read, are they're presumed deceased. Rescue efforts are still underway. Massive scale event there. I don't know, any thoughts or comments on that?
I was reading a little bit there. It sounds like, where it happened, it sits on a fault line. This is not their first major earthquake. I think the last one they had was 1999, where they had like 18,000 dead.
Right.
Obviously, that's a pretty war-torn area, Turkey, Syria. So their infrastructure there is probably not geared towards earthquake safety. It's about shelling and bombs and stuff like that, or they've already been shelled and bombed, and those buildings are, in some sort of partial collapse or
disrepair.
Ready.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty massive earthquake too, though, right? Like, and if that's the epicenter of it, like that's a lot of damage. Some of the video content coming out of it was pretty horrific, and then the secondary quakes and stuff too. The aftershock that they're having were I think it was a 7.5,
right?
Like still massive. Yeah. And so rescue efforts have already started. I think was it 10 hours or 12 hours later they had a big one, and so you look at some of these images and they have all these teams in place and tunneling through trying to get people, and now you have more massive earthquakes.
Yeah, that's right. And what's crazy, like, like Todd just said, the video that's coming out now, like, you think back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, like when we were a little younger, like, you read about these things, you hear about these things on the news, but unless you're watching, like, CNN, you're not even getting a fraction of the information.
Yeah.
And you're not getting, like, your local news source, unless it's a massive, massive event, like, which this would probably get even on our local news. You would probably see something like that come across. But, like, you're getting a 15-second little video clip, and that's really the only, like, eyes on the scene that you would ever see. And now, like, everybody's got a phone, and it's all going up on the internet, and, like, you are seeing, like, live action in these events, and it's just mind-blowing what this actually looks like. Like, we would never see something like that locally here. I mean, it's crazy. You know, you look at, like, when, like, the Syrians were posting up all of their videos.
Yeah.
Like, you're seeing things that, like, you're right there with them. And
yeah, the Ukraine-Russia war, same example, right? They
Yeah,
have
exactly.
cell phone footage and TikToks and tweets that are out there now.
yeah,
It's insane. They're posting everything, and it's unfiltered, and
exactly.
you know, like all these drones with their grenades. They're watching grenades get dropped on people, and they're dying right there.
Yeah.
It's all over TikTok.
Like right on your phone.
It's
Yeah.
nuts.
It is nuts. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, you know, that's the positive and the negative of our social medias, right? Like, we are really seeing a real live view into these events. You know, it's people in our walk of life. It's interesting to see the rescues as they happen and see, you know, what's unfolding. But, you know, again, it's just a different time.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you have to have that unfiltered because sometimes we just don't know. And,
Sure.
you know, sometimes the stuff that we're fed, you know, the gussied up side of things, or the, you know, just the small snippets of stuff, you know, unless you actually see the full unfiltered stuff,
yeah,
we
like I
sometimes
say,
just don't know.
it's those 15-second
Yeah.
clips don't really tell a whole story.
Yeah.
But when you're watching a live feed, like, that is what is happening. These people are boots on the ground, and like, you are seeing live action of what's happening. So anyway, yeah, I mean, 4,000 plus as of today. I'm sure that number is going to rise as rescue efforts continue.
Yeah.
So watching that unfold and thinking about everybody involved over there for sure. It's been a relatively quiet week. I know we don't want to say that, but I mean, at this point, I'll jinx it and give me something. But yeah, it's been, you know, so I just got off of duty, and it was the lamest week that I've had. We had one, and, like, I don't want to, like, we had one good MBA, but we had one MBA that we actually had to do some work on, and the rest of it was all alarm calls. And, like, some of them were legit alarm calls where we had to go do some things, but yeah, it was all.
Don't mind me.
Yeah, Todd's busting out the knife again. Yeah, it was all very kind of status quo. Go and do our job and leave. And everybody left. Everybody came back safe. All of the, you know, residences and callers were all safe. Like, these are the things that, you know, you're obviously hopeful for. But it's all status quo stuff, right? We then went into an incident command course over the weekend, which was, I mean, anytime that you get death by PowerPoint is death by PowerPoint. You know what? But it gets the guys chatting, and it gets, you know, there's a ton of value in it. And I'm super happy that we're able to do them. But we can't really make a podcast about it. But, I mean, it is nice to get everybody together, sit down at a table, do some of those tabletop discussions, you know, do those pretend scenario and events that you have to walk through and plan out. There is a time and a place for it, and, you know, it was a ton of value that we're bringing back to the department. I'm grateful that's going to be the last one of those that we have for a while. We actually have another one coming up with a different group next month, which I'm actually really looking forward to. More of an emergency scene management style.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's coming up. But I don't know, Rob, what did you think of the course?
I seem to remember some of it, even from the first one I took.
Mm-hmm.
Was the 100. There seemed to be some similarities too, but
Yeah.
I think it highlights some of the things that we do or don't do, whether it is on scene stuff or after call, briefing, debriefing, that type of stuff. You know, I definitely find some great takeaways from us doing debriefs after specific calls. Not every call needs a debrief. A major call, a massive call where we utilize everybody, that's where a debrief really is beneficial for everybody that was there, even those that weren't there, to paint a picture of what happened from each captain or each quadrant of the scene or whatever was going on. But yeah, those are some of the takeaways I got from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think very, very similar for myself. Just brushing up on some of our skills. I think we have come a long, long way. Just with how we run our command structure. I'm definitely proud looking back 10 years ago until now, kind of like where we as a group have come. We've had some faces come and go in the command, and as well as firefighters, and I think that's definitely propelled us to some greater levels. I think we're definitely a work in progress. Anytime that you think otherwise, you're wrong. But knowing that, hey, like we've come so far, we definitely have a lot to build on. Something that I think we all in the leadership group can recognize, and things that we can continue to strive to be better.
I think even too, just the fact that we offer that course to anybody that wants to be able
100%.
to take it, whether they want to be in command level or not, they at least get an idea of what's involved in the command level.
Sure.
That's not just the get together and do some cool stuff. Unfortunately, this is not cool stuff, but it just shows what we have to do as officers, and what things we have to be thinking about.
That's right.
And there's a lot of back end stuff that we have to deal with too, or paperwork, or just all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I think the big thing, like we kind of were chatting before we hit record here tonight, and the big thing, or the big takeaway for I think a lot of the other firefighters that take these type of courses as well, like you said, Rob, is just understanding the big picture of the ICS structure, of how in depth it can be, and just to understand, okay, why we're pausing, why there's certain structures, not to get on the radio right away and be, asking to speak to command every 2 seconds, because sometimes you need that moment. Get your plan in place, have a face-to-face with your officer, get your instant action plan going, and then move forward. Like, just for everybody to understand that, hey, you know what, we have our tasks, we already have our truck assignment or whatever, and then break it down and just understand that whole structure, but also understand enough of the critical beginning components in case an officer isn't there sometimes. Because sometimes it will just be hopefully a semi-senior firefighter in that jump seat, but sometimes there isn't. Sometimes we have low manpower, and you can be a fairly new firefighter in that jump seat with 2-3 guys in the back that are also fairly new. And, it's not the perfect world, but it happens.
This is reality. Yeah, exactly. And it comes back to a bit of a discussion that we were having as well, that sometimes we'll be on a course on a Saturday or on a Sunday, and the tones drop, and the fire doesn't care who's sitting here, the patient doesn't care who's sitting here. If you can fill a truck and get hands on scene, boots on the ground quickly, if I've got 4 officers and 1 firefighter in the first due, you're still going to work your ass off. Doesn't matter. Like, we're out there to do the job. And that might mean that next truck officer is a senior firefighter. And, just we empower our guys to step up, to fill a role until they can be relieved. And like chatting with the instructor, he has embraced our kind of way around here. I was chatting with the chief after the course briefly, and like there was a time when like guys were like, this guy, because he's pretty black and white, and we run a lot of gray area. And as things have developed over the course of the last couple of years, we had what we used to call the playbook, and that was kind of our like governing paperwork that made sure that we were meeting all of the minimum standards in training and certs and all that stuff. And now the province has come out with the new version of that, which is, what have they called it now? The minimum standards for structural firefighters. Something like that. They've made it a lot harder to say, but it's the exact same policy, but they've added a few more things to it, kind of outlined a couple extra things that were lacking previously. But it's still, when you read it, it leaves a lot to interpretation. And chatting with the instructor, who I think had a hand in rolling this out, he actually says, it's all a matter of how you interpret it, what your authority having jurisdiction will allow locally, and that can dictate how you guys kind of operate moving forward. So yes, you have to get sign off on a lot of the JPRs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going out there and you're paying an assload of money to get a course.
Yeah.
You can do so much of that stuff in-house. So anyway, back to the gray area. This guy has embraced the fact that we live in the gray area here. And I think a lot of things with the fire service, they go black and white because they need to have a line. But the reality is what happens once the tones drop is you need, not freelancing, but you need a little bit of that decentralized command where, that leader's intent, where, it's not up to interpretation, but it kind of is. Like I can say to Todd, hey Todd, I want you guys to go do interior attack, right? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you the direction that I want you to go, and now it's up to you guys to figure out, okay, like what's going to be the best, blah, blah, blah. I might say, hey, I want you guys to go and do interior attack, positive pressure ventilate, whatever, but likely not. Like that's going to be, I make a plan that I want my first officer and his team to go and do this. And then while I'm looking after something else. And back to that, giving us a moment to think, if I already know that truck is going to go and do that, I'm looking bigger picture already again. So I've stepped out of the attack role now. I know that it's going to happen, and now I can start looking bigger picture. What am I going to need in 10 minutes? Like, what is this going to look like, right?
And that's super important, like you just said. Like, so, okay, you tasked me as the interior attack team. We're entering on, let's call it the alpha door. You're not saying, hey, I need you to isolate a flow path or do this or do that. Like, just that short, hey, sounds like the fire's on the first floor, enter on the alpha side.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, copy that. Now, when we get there, we're going to decide, reading the smoke and reading everything else, okay, are we doing door control? Are we going to be asking for a fan?
Yeah.
Are we doing positive pressure attack? That's kind of the next phase of that. And if we're just doing door control, we're pushing in. And if we find something and, hey, you know what, we need to actually ventilate now, I'm making that calm communication back out and moving forward from there. But again, like I said, it's that intent, and then we can build from there.
Sure.
I was thinking very similar to the same thing, actually, what you just said. So,
yeah, I think so. Kind of like, reiterating that, chatting with the instructor about just a lot of things. There's a bunch of departments locally here that operate through a regional district, and they are the quote exterior only operations level, but they're not really right. They cannot enter an IDLH environment, so they can't go into an involved compartment, but they can go into a structure that is on fire and indirectly attack it down the hallway, or they could do a water application from the outside and then make a push inside.
Yeah, you can do that. That's a prime example.
Yeah.
Do that exterior water application. Hey, it looks like we've got a knock on. We still need to put it out.
Sure.
So now we're going to ventilate. Hey, now it's not an ideal environment.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to go in and put it out.
Yeah. And I think it comes back down to that interpretation of the rules. So as some of these departments are interpreting this, they're like, they put on SCBA to get close to the structure, but they're not going to push in. Like, no, guys. Like, you can go in. You got to make a knock on the fire first. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time that is going to mean either an exterior water application or a small room and contents fire that you can attack from a hallway. Mm-hmm. You know, like maybe the best course of action is to vent from the outside, make a push from the inside, and then attack it from a hallway. You're still not directly in that ideal environment. That is well within the rules of the new playbook.
Yeah, if somebody looked at those rules, well, I don't want to even call them rules. Somebody looked at the playbook and interpreted it as, okay, we're an exterior only department. I'm sorry, what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, every fucking building's going to burn to the ground.
Yeah, eventually you have to go inside.
Well,
yeah.
And what's stopping you from doing a patient rescue? Oh, I can't go inside because I can't go inside? No, we're going to go inside and you're in there for X minutes and then you're back out.
Yeah.
Where are they? Get that intel. You know, can we do a grab or whatever?
Yeah.
That's that gray area.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
And this can be debated, and it has been debated.
Sure. And I think there's a bit more clarity now in the new system, which is great. And a lot of people are embracing that. I had a chat with a local deputy chief today, actually, about that, and about how things are interpreted and like what their SOGs state that they're allowed to do, and yeah, I mean, it's a positive shift moving forward. It's all about what your department SOGs are and what you train, what level you train to. Because I started to think back again. So in the past, how many years? Look at all of our large scale events that we've had, the big fires. How many fires could we and did we attack with that same mindset, where you come in, exterior water application, you got to knock on the fire, and then you push in, and it's going to be followed with positive pressure vent or hydraulic, whatever. Maybe you are going up on the roof and creating a flow path to help with that vent team, but there's options there. Like, I look back to all of our major structure fires, and like, we've saved a shit ton of houses that we started on the outside and then pushed in. And I laugh, going back to that quote of like, we don't do yard work. Like, everything's got to be pushing through the front door and making the knock from the inside because it's quote unquote faster. And I just don't buy it. Like, the science behind it doesn't make sense.
No, you need that. You need that exterior water application. And then the constant cool that environment, get rid of that stuff, and then exactly.
Especially when there's like 2.5 hose that you can put a massive amount of water in.
You start cooling
right away,
BTUs big time,
and then transition from there. I see benefits to our transitional attack, where in the past 10 years ago or later there would be arguments. Oh no, that doesn't work. Well, we can show that it actually does.
Absolutely, yeah. There's science behind it.
Does all the studies for us.
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, it's firefighter life safety. It's patient safety. Getting a knock on that fire from the outside, you're just improving. Whatever percentage of rescue that you have, and even if it's not a rescue, just getting that knock on the fire is greatly increasing the probability of saving whatever of that structure. Anyway, so we've kind of gone off of the nature of the course, as we do, but but those are some of the side conversations that happen in these courses. Does it have anything really to do with the ICS structure? Yes and no, but those are the conversations that you have in these courses, because there's always a comment, and then there's a small side chat. And then next thing you know, you're diving deep into like what we just did here. It has nothing to do with what we were just saying, but a ton of valuable information, because a lot of smart people that have a shit ton of experience just started, hey, this is how I can decipher that. Hey, this is what we've done in the past. Hey, this is where we've found success. Getting in front of somebody, getting other people in front of you, like-minded individuals that have a different level of service and a different level of experience, there's so much value. And that's where, like, I always come back to doing some mutual training, some mutual tabletops with you guys would bring so much value, because everybody has a different level of experience. And I'm not saying experience like qualification experience, just life experience on the fire ground.
Yeah.
So getting that information across and out in the open, there's so much that we can learn from each other. So I would say that, for me, back to what we were saying, was probably the biggest takeaway that I got from the course. Because this was just a very small add-on to the course that we've all taken before. So was there a ton of value? Am I a better firefighter today because of the course I just took? No. Am I a better firefighter today because of the course that I took and the information that I got out of it, which might not have been directly attached to the course? Yes. Mm-hmm. So tons of value.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And that's why getting those discussions going in class like that is one of the most beneficial components for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why it's good for the newer firefighters to take those same courses as us.
Yeah, absolutely. We had our newest officer was there, and he was heavily involved. We had another firefighter with a lot of experience. He used to be with you guys, and then he's up here now with us. And he's about as close as it gets to being an officer without being one. Definitely a senior firefighter, held in very high regard around here. Will likely be an officer one day. Having somebody like that come in there, like, that's the guy that you want to see in that jump seat if there's no officer available.
Absolutely.
And the experience, the knowledge, and like he started to chat about, we had one of our scenarios that we had to tabletop through, and we started chatting about, it was a search, and he's like, I can tell you from my experience, I have X amount of years experience as being a firefighter, X amount of experience being on search and rescue. So he's very much the same path that I took. And he's like, from my experience, this is how I think that this would likely play out. And he was on a separate group that I was in, and both of us kind of came up with the same thing. We're like, hey, see, like, this is great. Like, all of our past experiences, fire and else, is leading us to a same decision, and we weren't even in the same group. So, again, like, that's what gets people thinking, and having that mindset and having that past experience is invaluable.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, so that was the driest course that we managed to find some pretty major positives. One of the other positives that came throughout the course on Sunday, we were halfway through our Death by PowerPoint prior to our celebration of learning, which is funny. I text the missus, and I'm like, oh, we're about ready to do our celebration of learning. She's like, I have no idea what you're chatting about. I'm like, we're going to take a test. She's like, sorry. So it was just prior to our test, and my phone goes off. And, hey, buddy Opal, it's Todd. We're going to need you guys with your side-by-side, potentially. You were working on car.
Yeah.
So, without getting into major detail, I mean, the patient was fine, but kind of walk us through how that came about.
Yeah, so basically my partner and I, we got tagged on a call to go deal with somebody from had a fall. And we're looking at the information where we're going, and it's up on this golf course area. We're like, all right, well, we of course made the joke, like, who the hell's golfing this time of year?
Right.
Which is,
there's still snow on the ground in a lot of the outlying places.
But also sometimes, like, we've had years where it's not as wet this time of year,
Sure.
and the golf course says, hey, people do go out and plink around on a couple of holes.
Yep.
Sometimes as long as they don't damage the greens and the turf, if it's going to be strong enough. So we made the joke, like, actually I should back up. Just prior to that call coming in for us, we're doing our car check and putting shit in the car, and we're making jokes about our helmets that we have.
Right.
for the ambulance. We're like, oh man, I don't even remember the last time I wore this stupid thing. And we're both chatting about it, and my partner's like, he's like, yeah, a couple of years ago we were talking about the same thing. We didn't have our helmets, and next thing you know, we're doing this call with the quads and SAR, and we couldn't go on the quad because we didn't have our helmets. And we're like, that's stupid. Yeah, we'd make sure we'd bring them with us if we ever got a call like that.
Yeah.
Hey, you're going for a fall. Okay, jump in the ambulance, start driving away. We're looking at the cab, we're like, ooh, okay, golf course up high. We're like, shit, gates are gonna be locked. So I'm like, you know what? We might need to call the fire department for the side by side, get some access here, because I am not driving this ambulance onto the golf course and get it stuck.
No.
this is not happening.
No, it was not going to go there.
So we were already having this plan. So I texted you guys like, hey, FYI, this may be coming in.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we get there, gates are locked, the person comes down and meets us and gives us the scoop. We're like, all right, 100%, yeah, we need access by side. It's a hell of a hike up with all of our gear. It's just not going to be good. So get my partner called dispatch, call for you guys, and in the meantime, you guys already started rolling out and having your discussions here as far as which crews to come up and help. And I'm waiting. I'm like, text you guys back. I'm like, you guys coming? And Ash is like, call us. I'm like, we did like 5 minutes ago. And long story short, it sounds like our dispatch shit the bed and didn't call fire dispatch. But
right. So luckily, we didn't wait for that. We kind of went off the reservation there a bit, and we. So as the information comes available to us, one way or the other, so we had that chat here. Okay, so this is kind of where we know it is. We know we're going to have to get access so that there's at least one lock gate. Yeah. I don't know where they are. They do have some access trails. And there's a bunch of us here. We're right in the middle of a course. So there was a good variety of people. And we had a couple of firefighters that were just out in the bays doing some extra training. So we walk out here and we're like, hey, you know what? 2 of us are going to roll in the officer truck. So Rob and I went in that. A couple of other officers jumped on our side-by-side, and we hopped in the rescue. Because we didn't know what kind of equipment we might need out there, right? Yeah. So rather than, the first thing is, hey, we're in the middle of a course, let's just grab what we think we need, and then go. And then we're like, nah, pause. We don't know what we think we need. Mm-hmm. So let's bring everything, and that can just get parked at the gate. And if we have to shuttle, we can shuttle. Well, let's bring all of our stuff up there. Okay, check. So we all start rolling up there. There's a bit of a snafu there with dispatch, but that all got sorted out quickly. We got on scene, and right away we're like, yeah, the gate's locked. But they're doing some construction to the golf course, and there's a portion of the fence line that was tore out at the moment. So it was open enough, and it was definitely couldn't take the ambulance up there, but the side-by-side blasted up there easily. Yeah, exactly. And the office truck made it up there really easy as well. Big pickup truck, 4x4. Mm-hmm. So we got on scene. We had a quick face-to-face there, grabbed everything that we need. Most of it went in the side-by-side with yourself, and you went up with our guys. We picked up your partner, and the rest of the extra gear threw in the back of the officer truck, and then we followed suit up behind you guys. Yeah.
Which worked perfect because we were kind of getting our game plan together on scene down below there as well. So, okay, it sounds like it's just a simple fall, so we're not going to need potentially a lot of other stuff. But you know what? It's cold and wet out, so we already bagged up some blankets ready to go. We had our usual trauma kits and pain management, and then we're like, let's bring the clamshell and stuff like that in case we need some sort of lifting device as well. So we had that all prepped, so that worked out great by utilizing all that in the officer truck and the side by, and then of course that side by side beetles up the pass like a hot damn. So we were up there in a matter of minutes. Yeah. Whereas if we were hiking, it would have taken us 20 minutes.
Sure. Yeah. And then you're up there,
and we probably would have got lost.
Well, that's the thing. So so it was on hole 4, which you think is going to be super easy to get to. Yeah. But there's not like a massive ravine, but there is that runs kind of diagonally right through the course. So there's only really one way to get there.
And it was perfect because I'm in the back seat and Warren was the officer in the side-by-side and he golfs there at the time. So he's like, yeah, okay, go up here. You're going to take this path, go up here. And you can see the whole time, I took a video of it. And the whole time he's just pointing at him which way to go. And we were there in a hot damn.
Yeah, minutes, man. It was fast.
Hole 4 is a par 5. It's a long hole too. Yeah, so you
sure
could have been way at the far end. So Yeah.
I think I've golfed there twice, and both times were a stag, and I was drunk. So, and I'm not a golfer, so
Exactly. Playing some
I have
blackjack, you're not really
I
golfing.
have no idea where I was going.
Yeah, I mean, so once we got on scene, I mean, patient was great. There was somebody
Yeah.
there with her. It was a simple lower extremity injury.
Very easy assessment package. She was able to sit in the side by side, no problems.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were down in the ambulance in under 10 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, it was fast. I was thinking on our way out there, I'm like, this is going to be the best way to get you guys with all of your gear directly to the patient, and then get the assessment of what kind of condition the patient's in. And once we got on scene, knowing that we had search and rescue in our pocket, so they have a side by side that's equipped to actually transport a patient.
Right.
So, I mean, we were, and the patient was lucky that it was just a single injury to, I don't know if she like rolled her ankle, like whatever the deal was, but very minor injury, just couldn't walk out. So basically, was able to support herself on one leg. Had to do a quick pillow split. Nothing major. But if it had to come to the point where yes, we are going to need to put her on a clam, having SAR as a backup is another awesome opportunity as well.
We just needed to get eyes on scene to see exactly.
100%.
I mean, we had a really good report from the person that came down and met us. So we already had a pretty 100% picture of what was going on.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to base everything off of that until we get eyes on.
Yeah.
And that's why having you guys there at the side by side.
Sweet.
We were there right away.
Yeah.
And quickly realized, oh yeah, this is minutes, quick assessment, quick package, boom, and then
let's get her
we were done.
in the ambulance. Yeah, like she was, I don't know how long she was down prior to you guys getting the call. People in general are not quick to call for help. Like, this hurts. I'm just going to sit this one out for 5 minutes, which turns into 25 minutes. Where it's like, shit. I guess now I should probably call. Well, it's a half an hour, whatever. Like, I have no idea if that was the case now, but that is human nature. Like, if I'm not going to call, or like if there's any, I'm going to try to figure this out. Yeah, no, I need to call. All right, well, now that we're here, let's minimize the amount of time that this patient needs to sit out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was, you know what, it was kind of one of those fun calls. Like, everybody on scene was super happy to be there, super happy to help. There was a couple people that, there was the male gentleman that was walking his dog. I don't know if he was with her or just passing by, but he was a big help. The lady that came to meet us at the gate happens to work with Rob. Yeah. So it was just an overall, it was a nothing call that was crazy fun. Yeah. Just because of the nature of it. Like, us getting to work together is always a blast. And like, when the patient is in that good of spirits, in a bad way, like, she wasn't in a bad way, but like,
no, she was a rock star. Yeah,
she was stuck there without us, and she was super happy.
They were all so appreciative of us and you guys.
Sure.
Coming so quick. They thanked us and you so many times.
Yeah,
and we kept telling them, like, hey, you are welcome, but this is what we are here for.
Yeah,
we are here for you. We are a public service, 100%.
And you know what the moral of the story is? The next time you and your partner are loading the ambulance and look at those helmets, you'll decide to pack them.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, every time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of appreciative, I can tell you who isn't appreciative. People at the apartments right across the street from us. So later that night, we had an alarm call to that place. It was a resident that set off the smoke alarm, and they were much less appreciative to have us there. It's crazy how, like, you can be the person who's causing the incident and be so put out by firefighters coming to make sure that you're safe. So that's the roller coaster of emotions. You have one person that's out, hiking and, just out for a nice leisurely stroll with your dog. And next thing you know, you're on your ass and, like, so thankful. And then the next one is, well, okay, now it's later in the evening. You just, set off an alarm and you've evacuated how many families out of this complex and be so
not care.
Yeah, just not give a shit.
Yeah.
So, but that's the nature of the job, and we show up with a smile every time.
That's it. Yeah, it's very hard sometimes, but
yeah,
sometimes you got to do it. And then sometimes you just say, you know what, I'm not dealing with you. I'm going to deal with a different person.
100%.
We had a few years back, same thing. We went for an alarm, and it was caused by cooking. And the guy met us, and he literally, as I'm stepping out of the truck as the officer, he's swearing at us and telling us to F off and this and that. What are you doing? Taxpayers' money, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, we're here for your fire. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? He's carrying on, this false by cooking. What the F are you guys doing? I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry. We didn't know that. All we get is it's an alarm, and there's smoke, and there's no callback.
Yeah.
You need to call the alarm. So I was trying to educate him, and he's just belligerent. Like now he's stepping. Now he's stepping up to me and getting aggressive. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
And I was pretty fresh out of the coast, and you know what? This is not happening.
Yeah.
I am not about to get into a fist fight with you.
Absolutely.
So I called for the police, stepped back, and then I think the spouse finally realized, ooh, cops are coming. He's a drunk asshole. So she came out and talked to me, and I talked her off the ledge. I was like, look, I appreciate if it's a false alarm. We don't need to come traipsing through your house. Just let us know politely, and we will absolutely leave you alone and clear.
Yeah.
No problems at all.
Mm.
It's a very, very similar situation when it was a steam from a shower that sets off the alarm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many people live in that building, but not everybody gets out because it seems to be every week we get an alarm there. But
yeah,
very similar situation. Oh, I know it was me that caused the alarm. I'm not getting out of my apartment. And, you know, the chief is having an argument. Well, no, you need to get out of your apartment and come tell us what's going on.
Or we're coming in.
Yeah, or we have to come in.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's always going to be those people. Getting that education out there. Like, I don't think there's any level of education that would, solve that issue. But like some people in like these apartment style buildings, I mean, I don't know if they have fire drills. I mean, they have had enough in the past because they're always outside for us. But like having it posted, like making sure whoever they have as a rep for the building that's looking after it, just a quick, hey, like if there is an event, like come out front, like meet up with the fire department. There's going to be somebody coming first, either the chief or one of the duty chiefs for the week. Just come outside, meet them, explain what happened. Likely at that point they'll send everybody else back inside. But if you don't come out and you don't say anything, there's families, and like we had an event where there was something that was actually burning in a kitchen, very, very minimal stuff, but like there's like newborn babies that we have to evacuate out of the building until we know 100% that this is a safe structure to go and re-enter. And if you don't come and meet us outside and explain what happened, like, hey, no, sorry, it was me, pot on stove, whatever, it's extinguished, or it's a non-issue. If that was told to me as the first arriving officer, I would likely say, hey, everybody, let's just do a quick muster right in this breezeway. There's a nice entranceway that you can fit 30 people in there safely. Stay right here. We're going to go confirm, but we have a report from the resident that it's a non-issue. That's great. But when you have no idea, until you put eyes on it, sadly, like your safety is more important than you getting a bit chilly. And the last thing I want to do is put that infant with their family and that elderly resident outside in the wintertime for no reason at all.
Yeah.
So a little more public education
Yeah.
in those type of buildings, I think, will go a long way. And we try to verbally do that every time that we're there, and be very thankful to the people that are coming outside every time. Like we've been there 4 or 5 times just this year alone, and then multiple times prior. So every time that we're there, I always make a habit of like, hey guys, thanks again, thanks a lot for coming outside. I know you guys aren't happy about this either, but we're always going to be here to come, and we're very, very thankful and appreciative that we're not in there trying to search and make sure everybody's out if this was a live event.
Yeah. Thankfully they have an alarm system that tells you which room to go check on, rather than a general building alarm, and then you've got to go room by room by room.
Some of the older structures like that, the older apartments are awful for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have no
that makes
idea,
it a lot
right?
harder.
It might give you a floor, or it might give you like west.
Yeah, and then you're searching every detector in the hallway and
Yeah.
listening to the doors if you don't see one falls, and it's a pain in the ass. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's public education, and then unfortunately, which some people don't like, is the enforcement afterwards
Yes.
as well. Which I don't know about your community, but our community for sure, like we were definitely lacking in the enforcement side of things.
Absolutely, yeah.
We did a little bit of public education, a lot more the past few years for sure. But even we kind of softly did the enforcement, but now we're enforcing a bit more, and it's getting a lot better.
For sure. Yeah, we are as well. We have a really good working relationship with the building management. I know the chief was over there again today, and had another meeting with him. Just basically explaining, like, hey, like we've been here again 4 times already since the start of the year. I mean, that's quite frequent to one location, and this is a new build. And sadly, 2 of them were complete false alarms with uncooperative residents.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, now comes a bill. If something is on fire, I mean, that's what you pay insurance for.
Yeah.
That's why you're there. And we will never, ever, ever put a bill towards something like that.
No.
But if it's avoidable and your people have been educated, which they all have.
And you had your grace periods.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, sadly, there is, I mean, there's a cost. There is a cost for service. And you pay when it's an emergency so you don't have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you pay your annual insurance, so when there is an emergency, there is no fee. But like Todd said, you've had a grace period. We've gotten through this. When we continue to have these false alarms and people that are not being cooperative, I mean, sadly, every time a fire engine rolls with a duty officer or a chief going direct, the cost that is incurred is about $1,000.
Yeah.
Like when you add everything up, right? So it has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes the enforcement factor, I mean, you pay up to 4 calls. If 2 of them are finable calls, and they understand that, and they're being really good about it. But I know there's things being done, and they're taking it very, very serious.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. We'll move on to, we were going to chat about some ice rescue last week, like I mentioned earlier, but we got cut short by a call. So we're going to be doing, well, if we have ice left, it's been pretty mild. We're going to see what our ice looks like. But we have plans for the next 2 weeks to do some ice practice, get some of our guys out on the ice, and do a lot of shore-based techniques that like non-certified people can still go and give hands-on and help, because there's a ton of work that can happen shore-based that assists those few people that are actually going out onto the ice to rescue. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do that for the next couple of weeks, and we're also going to be working on some force entry, which there's not a ton to chat about that. Just basically honing skills, getting hands-on tools. We have a beautiful rebreakable door. We have the ability to do these drills and really get that muscle memory, hammered in. But why don't you tell us, Rob, about the course that you took not this weekend, but the previous, and kind of what you envision our next couple weeks of training is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, with our ice rescue course that myself and Gus went to, for him and I, we've gone through the Swiftwater stuff, so some of the classroom stuff was,
a little
kind of redundant because
yeah.
we've done the Swiftwater stuff, but some others in the class probably haven't, so you have to, of course, teach to your lowest trained person. So, we went through some of that, just learning a few of the different type of rescue things we might be involved in, some self-rescue stuff, patient rescue. That was classroom for the Saturday morning. The Saturday afternoon was getting out into the ice. It had been relatively cold for that week, and in the minus 15s for the weekend we were out there, so it was really cold.
Right.
So we ended up on the lake with about 5 or so inches thick ice. We chainsawed a rectangular opening in the ice to kind of work in and practice some of the self-rescue, a couple of different things there. We practiced some patient rescues the next day, as far as just some rope rescue with a cinch, or maybe our self-rescue as well with a carabiner on PFDs for a front rescue and just assisting the patient out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
We worked on a couple of tactics using some cross ropes with semi screws and vector pulls. Maybe you have a deer or something in the water that needs help getting out, so it's just a matter of getting that rescue rope underneath them and vector pulling to try and get the feet out of the water and try and get some stability on the ice and out. So with those types of rescues, I mean, again, the ice being thick, there's less chance of the ice breaking as you walk on it or move on it. So it was fairly easy that way. We played around with some ladders, as far as a roof ladder and extension ladder, being able to do just a ladder bridge to be safely where the opening was and do possibly a patient rescue that way. We worked on doing another ladder bridge that's more like a drawbridge, where you utilize your belay line and a pike pole, and just kind of creating a pivot point, and
on the shelf of the ice.
Yeah, on the shelf of the ice, and your rungs of your ladder, and then using your rope and some manpower to basically safely lower that down without having to go too far out onto the ice. Maybe you're working on an unstable portion of the ice. Again, all of this stuff being worked on as trained people to go out onto the ice, not just working with your untrained people that are going to be shore-based. So I think we'll talk about some of those rescues in our upcoming training with our guys, show them what they can expect to see, probably from on-ice rescue. But a lot of the stuff we're going to work with them, again, is same stuff we'll be doing through our Swiftwater stuff, is shore-based. We talk about talk, throw, reach, then go. Go is our last resort for any type of water-based rescue. So yeah, just a lot of that stuff we're learning. I know that some of our guys have done the ice rescue stuff in previous years, and they ended up with a little bit different ice conditions, where the ice was not as thick and they were breaking through as they would go along. We did not have that, so they got to experience that and figure out what worked for them in being able to get out of the ice and work with the ice or patients on the ice. Again, we have our lake, and portions of the lake I would expect people to be out on are areas where it's shallow still if you broke through it, but there are areas further out where it has frozen over the past couple of weeks, and you could get out into the middle and have an event.
Sure. And we have had those events here in the past.
We have had one before. I don't know if you were involved, Ash. I wasn't involved with. Again, we had no formal training on ice rescue stuff, but we were called to the park at the beach where a kid had gone out on the lake, fell through as it had gotten thinner, wasn't paying attention to the ice, and fell through. he had been in the water for at least a half an hour before we got there, and was basically just arms up on the shore, and that's where he stayed.
Wasn't able to self-rescue.
Wasn't able to self-rescue.
Had the strength to hold himself up with his upper body on the shelf of the ice, but couldn't pull himself up. And being in there for that amount of time, I mean, you're starting to lose ability to,
You're losing dexterity,
motor skills, your ability to think and process properly. I mean, the self-rescue thing, I think that's, the biggest thing to really hit on is that talk, throw, and then go aspect, and really getting that dialed into our guys and to us as leadership if we're going to be there for first on scene. Getting patient contact doesn't mean that you're physically touching them, but yelling out to them, assuring them that, hey, like, we are here, we have a team coming, we are coming to you, and are you able to climb out? Yes, no. Hey, if I throw this to you, are you able to grab it? Yes, no. And then lastly, okay, now we're going to go out and we are going to try to make a rescue attempt, right?
I think too, you got to realize your patient's been in the water for X amount of time, and if they are losing mobility, dexterity, feeling in their extremities, you throw a throw bag at them. You're going to find out quickly too whether they're going to be able to assist.
Sure.
They may not be able to have any strength in their arms because they've been holding themselves out for so long, or their hands are so cold they can't grip that rope, or they've been in there so long with the hypothermia. Now they've got this tunnel vision where they don't even see you anymore.
Sure.
You're right there at them if you have to go out. And they are super focused on making sure
just staying alive.
Yeah. There's different levels of the hypothermia, right? So, and that's part of the assessment is, we want to do that, prompt the self-rescue, maybe try a throw bag, but depending on what we're seeing, if they're low in the water and just clinging onto that shelf, they are not going to let go of that shelf.
Yep.
And if they do, they're slipping under.
That's right.
So depending on our time too, it's all that information we need. So you may quickly, within the matter of moments, realize, okay, all these steps aren't going to work.
Yeah.
So then
we're going straight to rescue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so knowing how to read that, knowing those key signs to recognize early, and then coming up with a plan.
And depending, like you're saying, depending on what type of ice we're working with as well. So can we safely just make a ladder bridge or use a ladder technique, like I said, to get out them, depending on the distance?
Yeah.
If they're way out, then we're going to be going, and then we're assessing the ice as we're going out as the ice rescuers, and that gets into, okay, now do we need to throw an anchor in the ice?
Yeah.
Right? So things like that. So there's many techniques we've learned with ice rescue, and just choosing which one to use for that scenario.
I was really interested back in November, December, when it got extremely cold, when we were down to the minus 20s, 30s for a good week or so, where we actually had portions of the river starting to freeze over, and then you get that snowfall on top of it, and it made me wonder if anybody thought it was actually safe enough to go in. I would actually have liked to have seen what the ice would have been like
out on the river.
Yeah, because it doesn't happen all that often here for the river to freeze, and for it to freeze, it takes that extreme cold. It would have been interesting to work out a plan of what would we do, how would we do. Really, it'd be no different than a swiftwater rescue.
Sure.
You're just having to deal with cold.
With cold and ice on.
Where we have dry suits, we don't have cold weather dry suits. And really, for any of those types of rescues, if we're going out on the lake, you're going out and you're coming back. You're not going out and staying for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Where, Todd, I think you guys have the ice commanders.
We have the ice commanders, but it's still the same principle. Like, even how warm they are and how buoyant they are, it's still, we're hoping to make a quick grab. Like, we're not setting up for shop out there in this nice warm suit. Whereas the other dry suits are totally sufficient for what you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah. And you guys, unlike us, you guys have the rapid deployment boat.
Yeah.
So that's That's really cool. I know that would be something nice to have, not just for ice rescue, but something we can utilize for swiftwater as well.
Mm-hmm.
For just a patient across.
Yeah, the RDC it's definitely the safest platform for an ice rescue, because you can get your 2 rescuers out there very quickly, and if you get that broken ice where you're breaking through, you have the option to paddle and you're buoyant, you're not in, and then getting out to the patient, and you can pull them, put the harness on them, the cinch device, and pull them up on it, and then boom, your shore-based team, if you're close enough, is pulling you out, or you have the other 2 guys with an anchor point, and then now they're pulling you out to surface or steady surface ice, right?
Yeah.
But again, with that, if something fails, what if something screws up and we can't inflate it? Then you're using other techniques and other methods. Or if you just can't get the cinch on them and you have to enter the water, well, then that's plan B. Now you're entering the water. Now you're getting in behind them, putting that rescue cinch around them and pulling them up and boosting them over that shelf ledge. There's many styles, like everything we talk about, the different tools in the toolbox, right?
Yep.
I wished we had thought of, and I think the guys in the last rescue course did think about it, because they had taken the bush truck, and so they had it on the truck at the time. We have the little vent enter ladder,
right?
The VIS ladder, which is basically was an old roof ladder that we cut in half. So it actually has one half of it still has the hooks on it.
Sure.
And I think they used that in that a couple years ago to put into the water, put a patient out, tie a rope on, and drag out. I think we did a roof ladder, a full-size roof ladder, where you can put it into the water. It touched the bottom where we were, and basically it turns it into a sled on the ice.
Yeah, once you're on the rung, you just yank them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great because you just pull that right across the ice, and it slides real easy.
Yeah, a couple of years ago we were doing some ice practices on our lake, and a couple of your guys came down with that as well.
Yeah.
And they used that, and it works good. It's like any tool, if you need to do that style, if you're putting something in like spine boards have worked. I've seen other people use spine boards. As long as it's tied off and you can get it in and push them up and get them over that ledge, now you're sliding them out, right?
Yeah,
sure.
So that short ladder is another great tool that you could use, right? Again, it's, in my opinion, it's all depending on the patient. Like, what's going to work for this? Do we have time to pull out some other stuff, or do we just need to run out there with our rope and cinch device and get in the water and pull them? Like, it all depends on what's happening. Because hypothermia is the biggest issue there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the time in the water. But,
yeah.
And for our training, like for us, there's only a select few that have any water or ice rescue training now. For us to teach what's going to happen and what we're going to do, I think a lot of it is going to be based in the bays, working on throw bagging and tying a couple of knots if we need to. And that's really all that's going to be. And then we'll try and set something up where we can go out to the water so that we're not standing outside in the cold for 2 hours trying to teach stuff, because nobody's going to learn anything that way when they're freezing cold for...
Yeah, with the suits, we have to do a lot of the in-house and go
a lot of the dry land stuff.
You
know what? I think that's just it. Get guys out there, talk about it, go through some of the techniques that you can use as a shore-based rescuer, and then bust out there, get yourself geared up here, buzz out there, do a couple quick rotations so guys get eyes on what it looks like to do like a quick and dirty rescue, or some of the quick techniques that they might be seeing out there. It's just like we do with Swiftwater. There's a handful of guys that are going to be going in, but there's a ton of value to having hands on that shore and having them know and see what kind of value that they still bring in that rescue event is super, super key. So I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun over the next couple weeks. Again, we'll be banging out some force entry, and we might get into maybe some soft entry stuff as well. We'll kind of see how the night goes, but I'm really looking forward to practice the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think one of the interesting things that I took away from that too was our instructor was talking about it. You know how in the movies you see somebody's trapped underneath the ice and they're busting through and getting out of the ice like
Sure.
like they're some superhero. And he's like, really, if you feel the underside of that ice, it is glass smooth.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a chance to feel underneath there without going under and getting trapped. But there is no purchase point. There is no way you can grab anything. If you're under the ice, you're under the ice. There's It was interesting to feel just how smooth that actually is.
I mean, I would hope to never be in that position, but I bet you it's really eerie.
Yeah.
You know, going up close to the surface, and it's just that pane of glass.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, I mean, that's kind of a snapshot looking forward of what we have going on there. So, yeah, props to Rescue Canada for putting on that course. Awesome information that, the guys brought back. So,
and then in 2 weeks' time, we're doing a Train the Trainer for Ice Rescue.
That's right. Yeah, you guys are putting that on down south there, and hopefully there's still ice. Yeah, you might have to go a little higher up, but there's opportunity in the valley for sure to find ice pretty late in the season. So I actually just saw everywhere else said that we're expecting more winter, and then I saw an article today that the one in the Okanagan saw the shadow or whatever it means that we're supposed to be early spring.
Early spring.
I mean, looking at the weather coming up, it does call for pretty mild. So like we're well above freezing every day now. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw my travel trailer today. I'm like, man, I could go out for a camp here pretty quick. I am itching. But so that's kind of a look back at the week and a bit of a look forward to what we have planned. Let's call it there and let's roll into some shout outs. Rob, tell us a bit about Modus. You have a Modus decal on the back of your phone. So
I have a Modus decal on the back of my phone.
The old decal.
Modus, they have, of course, their claim to fame, the Snagger tool. But they have a lot more. I was actually just transferring over what I call my pocket protector. It's my little grab bag with Snagger and some various small hand tools. So they've got a lot of stuff in bags, gear bags, tool bags, mask bags. I think they have.
They do now,
Lots of mask bag, your wedges, your mini spanners.
Yeah,
you name it, man. They're coming.
They got some new product that is launching there. That's pretty cool.
It looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, wig vest for training.
Yeah, for training as well. Lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, so if you like what you see there, what's the discount code?
DTF F5.
Correct. And then we'll chat about Manscaped. Classic male grooming. We just wrapped up Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month. But I mean, every month should be Cancer Awareness Month for everybody, especially firefighters. The best way to aid in personal hygiene and grooming is keeping that area clean. We're rocking the Lawnmower 4.0. Keeps everything nice and tidy. The best way to keep it clean is to not have as much stuff down there to wash.
So I was gonna say my little guy made the media, but that sounds a little weird.
Yes,
I should say my little action figure.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. My wife put out a quick call on Facebook. Anybody have a firefighter figurine? I forget how she worded it. Anybody have a firefighter, a small action figure?
Yeah.
And Scott chimes back in, don't you have like a life-size one? So we use Rob's guy, which I keep forgetting to bring here for you.
I got it.
Hey?
I got it.
Oh, do you?
You brought it back. It was in my locker.
I did put it in your locker. You're right. Oh, man, I'm forgetful. Okay, I brought that back. So Rob's little guy is all over the internet now. But, if you haven't taken advantage, DTFF20 is going to get you 20% off your order. It'll also give you free shipping. We're rocking their product. Love it. Mm-hmm. You know what? It's nothing is 100% cut proof, but the design that they have, just the level of, like, I'm not anywhere near as stressed. Anytime that you have a buzzing blade down there, you're a little on edge, and
It calms the nerve.
it definitely
having the
calms
Manscaped
the
product.
nerve,
Are you
man.
rocking the gas-powered hedge trimmer?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, after a long Canadian winter. But yeah, Manscaped, awesome company, awesome product. Check them out. Let's stop the bleed, Rob. Let's redeem yourself.
Direct pressure,
Mhm.
wound packing,
Yep.
tourniquet.
Perfect.
Boom.
And if you want some extra courses on that, you can find Todd and Scott put on basically the entire Stop the Bleed course, and we have that up on our YouTube, so check that out. And if you want some awesome hands-on, Dr. Nick out of the Kootenays. Todd, tell us a bit about Dr. Nick and what he has to offer.
Yeah, Dr. Nick Sparrow out of the Kootenays. He runs KERPA as well, the Kootenay Emergency Response Physician Vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll layer with the ambulance for all the high acuity events. They're a non-profit organization, but also he is part of the ATAC group out of the UK. So they have the division up here in Canada, in BC. And he runs an RTAC course, so the Rescue, Trauma, and Casualty Care. And the RTAC program is fantastic. So they offer an online portion of it now as well, which we've talked about in the past. So reach out to the ATAC group, or and then in the ATAC group website, you can find a link to the RTAC information as well, and then an email link to Dr. Nick Sparrow.
Mm-hmm.
So with that course, of course, it's an online component, probably one of the best online courses out there for emergency responders and stuff. It really focuses on the high acuity, emergency scene assessment stuff and patient assessment models. Very well done course, and then a really good practical component as well for the scenario based training. So yeah, check them out at the ATAC group.
Absolutely. And then we got the Tanner Olson Band. Tell us a little bit about that, Rob.
Tanner Olson, they're a fantastic group. We were privileged to have them at our 100-year party last year. We have the honor of having them back for our spring seminar this year.
Absolutely.
They are going to put on an amazing show. I believe Tanner says that he's going to double up on the volume, so that's...
Yeah, they are looking to put on an amazing show. Yeah.
Awesome.
Light show is going to be double. The audio is going to be double.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome party in the park that we're putting on. We couldn't be happier to have Tanner back. It's going to be a hell of an event.
Yep. So if you guys have been listening and have had a chance to listen to his music, he's on various media platforms for streaming, for downloading content there. But also, if you happen to be in Canada and you want to book them, check them out. I'm sure they would be happy to plan a gig. I know that they are always up for playing shows and
yeah, absolutely.
Around.
They're doing a ton of touring, lots of live shows. Yeah, if you have a chance to see them anywhere, I would definitely do so.
Yep.
And if you're in the Pacific Northwest area and you want to see him and also take some amazing firefighter training, we are doing our spring seminar this year. As Rob said, he's going to be here playing that the Saturday night, Party in the Park after. But May 5, 6, 7, 2023, all of our spring seminar. It's going to be upwards of 24, 25 live hands-on sessions. I think we have almost half a dozen live fire sessions planned. Auto extrication, stabilization. We've got an active shooter. We've got searches. We've got, Fortis, our local gas and electrical company, is putting on multiple firefighter-driven events with live fire, with live power. We've got chemical spill. We got a ton of stuff. We've got some river rescue, tons. So what this looks like is you're going to get nothing more than a hearty high five at the end of it, but a ton tips and tricks that you can take back and see if it's something that you enjoy. See if it's some small things that you can take back to your department. Maybe there's some things that you were unaware of. Maybe it's just a bit of a refresher. About an hour-long course or an hour-long session per session. And again, there's no certificate that comes at the end of this, but we got qualified instructors on every single session, and you're getting that quick look into what VIS is, what an electrical down power line, and all of the safety that needs to come along with that, what a fire on a gas main coming up to your residence looks like, and how you have to attack that, what vehicle stabilization looks like. Maybe you're not super familiar with hands-on stabilization. This is going to be a quick hour. I mean, and an hour goes by fast, and we've just bumped this up from 45 minutes to an hour, just so we can focus a little bit heavier per session, and just kind of give everybody a little more to put in their toolbox for the next time that they have a call. Or maybe, like I was saying, maybe you don't do a lot of that rescue, maybe you don't do a lot of that technique, but it's something that you can take back and start to chat about and start to put into your training. And sooner than later, now that is in your rotation, and that's something that you guys can offer to your community. So May 5, 6, 7, you can find this on Facebook for registration if you are interested. Oliver Spring Seminar 2023. If you find us there, we will be sharing that information out on our social medias as well. We'd love to see you guys there. We are getting a ton of registrars coming through. We are, for this time of year, we are well above the numbers that we usually have, which is awesome to see. So it will fill up. So if you are interested, definitely reach out. We can give you any information that you're after, and we'd love to see you here. And then again, lastly, you still have us. You found us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. Give us a comment, a like. Give us some views. We want to keep pumping those YouTube numbers up. It's going to help us out. Definitely appreciate everybody that's taken the time to give us a like, share, and a subscribe across all those platforms. It just helps us continue to get out in front of more people, and continues to give us the drive to do what we're doing here. So we appreciate that. Anything more from you guys?
No, that is it.
Perfect.
Thank you. Good night.
Rob?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thanks guys. As always, stay safe, stay DTFF.